Greetings fellow Salt Ancestors, and welcome to another video on solo RPGs. Today I want to talk to you about Kyodaina, which is the latest expansion for the Colossal solo RPG. I've already done a video on the Colossal base rulebook as well as its first expansion, so if you'd like more info on how the system runs and the universe as a whole, I direct you to this video because it's rather comprehensive. This one will really be mostly focused on this particular expansion and what it brings to the overall system. And the first thing is probably fairly evident just from the cover, is that it moves away from a more, I'll say, European type setting into a more Asian type setting, again, very much in a fantasy universe. So that is the first change. This brings about a couple, well, one, I'd say major-ish new change to how characters are made, which is that it now adds a third statistics. So in addition to the exploration score, which used to be how many cards you draw when you're exploring, and the combat score, how many cards you draw to fight, we now have a spirit score for a character, which is actually how many times you can perform a special ability. And these special abilities are gained when you visit a temple. So this new system has temples available where your characters can go and train with monks, and all new draw tables from which you can either choose or randomly draw a new skill that you will have. So first observation, I think this will be fairly evident. By the way, I should say right now, this is going to be relatively spoiler-free in that the author strongly suggests not to read ahead in the book and to discover the different regions of Kyodaina when so directed by the prompts. That's how I played it, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. So I'm not going to spoil anything other than basically what is the opening of the game. Because whether you are creating a new character for Kyodaina or you're using a previous character to enter this part of the Colossal, you will be encountering the Temple of the Stone Fist, which is how you would probably gain your first point of spirit and your very first skill. Unless, of course, you're playing with the new character class that is being introduced through this, which is the first character class that doesn't involve a rook part, and it's called a Spirited. So, and they start with a spirit score as well as a starting power or skill. So, other than that, the first thing you would do when you enter the land of Kyodaina is encounter basically a temple to gain your very first spirit. So, the different kind of skills you can gain are interesting, although I will say, and maybe like, again, this is a very narrative-based game, right? So this isn't intended to be a heavy min-max type game. However, I found that these have very varying level of usefulness, if I can say. For example, a rook skin, after you use one spirit, lets you push your spirit to the surface and a stone-like skill appear over your body. You have 5 points to allocate battle that acts as a reduction to a rook's attack. You can choose to allocate these points however you want. For example, you can allocate all of the rook's attack to make a 10 into a 5. Or you can allocate 2 to make 1 attack and 1 to the next 3 attacks, for example. So it lets you tweak the attacks rate. And then there's the one that's a rook strength. This lets you add 3 to your attack score as opposed to reducing the rook's attack score. Anyway, so these are very combat focused, but these ones are just a bit more random, a little bit less, I don't know, I do want to say useful. So for example, if you look at this, if you extend your spirits to your muscle and unlock the strength of a rook, but channel it into your much smaller body, increasing your speed massively. In battle, each time you reveal a rook attack, you can choose to draw a card at random instead of using the one you draw on the attack card. To do this, you must discard one of your drawn attack cards, and then you must use a randomly drawn card in place of it in that turn. You gain more options, but that might backfire. So it's kind of a like draw at random your attack, which is a lot less controlled and possibly a lot more disastrous than knowing when it's worth it to add points to an attack or to a potential defense situation. So first observation on the skill, and that's again, that's not critical to this game because it is so exploration focused. And again, for me, because that was my first observation, I chose one of the first two, carried on with it, loved it, used it actually very little in the end, but I was playing with the helm, which is a very strong attack score to start with, so that probably played into that. So first thing is the spirit, the existence of temple, which are new locations you can go to gain new skill, to increase your spirit score, to heal, that sort of thing. The new thing also in exploring Kyodaina is that it comes with, instead of the more generic biomes, we now have 4 regions: the Spirit Forest, where we start, the Fangs of Fire Mountain Range, the Hori Archipelago, and the Skylands. And the way these run is that you start with the generic prompt table, which resemble a lot of the original, except that now they have prompts such as key location and NPC interaction. And these refer to the specific prompt table of each region. So some will be generic, like your calling, you see another adventurer. So some of it is pretty standard, but some of it will refer you to, for example, an NPC table for the Spirit Forest area. And then you would get the name of the NPC and a little bit of something about them. And I absolutely love this. This is so good. So good. It is so fun to actually have a bit more direction when interacting with people. To me, this made this book like almost by itself, to be honest. I mean, I love the setting. Like I said, Spirit is good, but it's fine. But this new NPC table is fantastic. It just opens up the story. It removes a little bit of like thing. It gives a name, which again, I hate naming things. So it's absolutely fantastic. The other thing too is that it creates key locations. I don't read this, so actually I'm just going to turn the page back. It creates new key location that you can visit where special events happen, and then depending on what happened, it affects the rest of your history with that region. So again, I'm going to keep this spoiler free, but it's neat. So with that, it's less sandboxy in a way than the original. But it is also not quite as scripted as an adventure. It's sort of like that straddle in between, where you're building the world, you're affecting it. There's some events that will happen when you trigger them, but then you can continue with your own way. This also introduces a new sort of enemy in addition to the rooks. And again, whether rooks are enemies is one thing, but you are often drawn into conflict with Imperial soldiers. So if I guess the idea of the Imperial soldier is somewhat introduced in the Roomland with the guided adventure that ends the Roomlands book. So this sort of picks up after the events of the Roomlands, and then you're in this land, and then here are the emperors. The soldiers are on a lookout for rookstones, particularly. They're very aggressive. They want to search you. They might attack you. They're basically belligerent. So they will often come up as an opponent in the story. And there's also a bit of info here on how to connect the calling that you may have had to the land of Kyodaina. So again, the other thing too is that some of this does refer to the original book. So the calling, for example, you don't have new callings out of this. If you create a new character, you'd have to refer to the calling of the base book. It does refer to how to create cities, again referring to the base book setting. It might refer to you finding items. Those prompts are still in the main book. You also might find cracklands, like cracks in the wall. That would refer you to the Roomlands section of that. So there is you cannot play this without the base rulebook or without even referencing the base rulebook. So I would say like I know how to play Colossal, so I didn't have to reread the rules, but I had to refer to some of the tables as the story progressed. So that's also something to keep in mind. Again, it's not super often, but it did happen. So again, if you run to a crackway or you build a city. So that's that. Let me see if I want to talk to you about something. So this, as you move through the zones, and again, there's 4 of them, you are encountering different things. There is a main story that the prompts are pushing you towards, which does culminate at the end into a much more guided finale, if I can call it that, much like the guided adventure of the Roomlands that closed the Roomlands. So again, it's a continuation of that story, and it unfolds in the same sort of directed way. Again, if you watched my first video, you know it was not my favorite part of the Roomlands. That finale was also not my favorite part of Kyodaina, but I loved everything leading up to it, because it is that, again, that sweet spot of of sandbox and direction. And it did it so very well. And honestly, the finale was fun. I liked how some of the events being triggered here played with the way the cards are drawn. I found particularly the first event, the first key location, to be very thematic in the way that it worked. So overall, and again, I'm sorry, that might be a little bit obscure. I really want you, if you're interested in this, to discover it for yourself because it's worth it. One thing that I will say, and I think the cards worked out in that favor for me, but they say, oh, when you encounter the borderland, you can draw a card and figure out which zone you're meeting next. I would suggest, or this, or you can choose. Anyway, I would suggest you do them in order. I think the story flowed really well in that order. And I think it would have been weird if it went a different way. Not weird, but like maybe it'd be more back and forth. It might have been less smooth, you know, a bit more like transition time that might be less engaging than just moving from one to the next to lead to the conclusion. So if I can just give a little bit of advice, I would suggest that you would encounter these regions in the order they are presented here. Because the only direction is that the first location has to be the Spirit Forest. After that, you would draw a card. If you've already found that place, then you can choose. But I would say just choose every time and move in order. So very good. Interesting, just enough kind of open mystery, enough finality, a nice little lead at the end for what we can hope will be the next expansion to the world of Colossal. This world continues to enchant me. It is, again, not a heavy RPG. It is very journaly, and it is not combat focused. Like if you want this for combat, for feeling awesome, like I did do some combat, you have to do some combat in it. But it's actually more of an exploration and discovery adventure. So if that's what you like in your RPG, that feeling of like exploring a new land and being in this new environment, I still think Colossal's got it. I think Kyodaina is a very good addition. Again, if it's just for those amazing NPC table. I also really loved how they have the main prompt that refer to specific events or situation in particular, I'll call them areas. It's also very fun actually, and it's easy to use. Like it might sound weird with it, but it's actually very easy to use, very smooth. It's easy to go back and imagine the story. You can journal to the minutest detail. You can journal in broad stroke. Like the first time I played Colossal, I was very into the minutiae of my journal. Like it almost read like a novel. This one was a lot more broad stroke. But I still lived it all in my head. I love the discovery of the land of Kyodaina. And with all that gushing and praising, I think I'll end the video. Thank you very much for watching. And if the setting is of interest, if you think you'd like journaling, honestly, you can't go wrong. You do need these first two before you use this one, again, because it refers to the rules, the base rules of these two books. That probably seems like a big investment. You don't need this to get a good Colossal experience. Colossal was one of my best before I came around Kyodaina. Still love Kyodaina. It's keeping me engaged. Actually when I got it, I'd taken a break from Colossal. It's been a while. I was like, oh, am I still gonna like it as much as I used to? You know, that little moment of like, is it as good as I remember? Yes, it absolutely is. Not better, but as good, and different, but the same in a weird way. So, Colossal, if it's interesting, if the setting's of interest, check it out. If you were wondering, I like Colossal, will I like Kyodaina? Is it too much? In my opinion, not at all. And I would encourage you to check it out for yourself. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.